Chapter 3354. Xiren's eyes blossomed with a strong light. He nodded and said, "Satisfied? I'm really satisfied." Although Long Yanwei had promised to give them a suitable contract beast, he never thought that it would be so suitable. He had some understanding of his flaws in combat, and he had always wanted to make up for his lack of strength. However, his old man had also said that he was born to be a speed-type cultivator, and his improvement in strength was far from being able to keep up with his speed. Instead of spending more time on strength, it was better to put all of his energy into cultivating speed. As long as his speed could reach the peak, then even if there was a lack of strength, the impact wouldn't be too big. If he could find a strength-type contract beast in the future, it would undoubtedly be best. All these years, Xiren had always wanted to find such a contract beast. However, there were too few contract beasts that met the requirements. The Berserk Earth-Splitting Tiger was the target of his attention. He always felt that the Berserk Earth-Splitting Tiger was most suitable to be his contract beast. Unfortunately, after searching for so many years, he still couldn't find a Berserk Earth-Splitting Tiger's demon pet egg. Firstly, it was because the adult Berserk Earth-Splitting Tiger's strength was extraordinary. Ordinary cultivators couldn't deal with it at all. Secondly, it was because the Berserk Earth-Splitting Tiger's level was very high. To seal it, the requirements for the contractor were also very high. He never thought that after coming to Penglai Island, he would be able to get a Berserk Earth-Splitting Tiger's demon pet egg. This was simply something that he yearned for even in his dreams. For a moment, Xiren's gaze was tightly focused on the demon pet egg. That loving gaze was simply like looking at his lover. Seeing that Xiren was so satisfied, the smile on Long Yanwei's lips couldn't help but become a bit wider. Every time he took out a demon pet egg, he was satisfied with it. Seeing that the other party liked it, he undoubtedly felt happy. After Bailey Hongzhuang and the others knew that Xiren's contract beast was actually a Berserk Earth-Splitting Tiger, their hearts couldn't help but surge with a strong sense of surprise. A contract beast of this level was much better than what they had imagined. It seemed that what Long Yanwei said before was not wrong at all. In order to make up for it, the demon pet eggs that Long Yanwei took out were not ordinary. And after knowing about Xiren's demon pet egg, everyone was looking forward to Shangguan Yingying and Di Beichen's demon pet egg even more. Bailey Hongzhuang's gaze landed on Long Yanwei, and she couldn't help but admire him. Long Yanwei was indeed worthy of being the most powerful contract master in Penglai Island. Not only was his ability to seal demon beasts amazing, but he also paid special attention to the shortcomings of the cultivator when choosing the contract beast for the cultivator. From this, he could determine the most suitable demon beast for the cultivator. In this way, the contract beast and the cultivator were more than compatible. This was the most suitable combination. Shangguan Yingying, the contract beast I chose for you, is the deep-sea devil flood dragon. There are many of them in the sea area of our Penglai Island, so the beasts we see the most are underwater beasts. However, the deep-sea demonic Jiao dragon was a bit different from ordinary underwater monsters. It was an amphibious monster, which meant that it had a certain amount of combat power whether it was in the sea or on land. Chapter 3355. The deep-sea demonic flood dragon's fighting strength in the sea is much stronger than on land. Back then, we spent a lot of effort to capture the deep-sea demonic flood dragon's offspring. Speaking up to here, Long Yanwei couldn't help but look at Izihua. Back then, the two of them had worked together to capture the deep-sea demonic flood dragon's offspring. In order to deal with the adult deep-sea demonic flood dragon, the two of them had spent a lot of effort. This was because this fellow's defense was too shocking and its strength was too great. Ordinary people really couldn't deal with it in the sea. Hearing Long Yanwei's introduction, Shangguan Yingying's eyes were filled with little stars. This was her contracted beast. Although she didn't know much about the deep-sea demonic flood dragon, she knew that this deep-sea demonic flood dragon was definitely not simple from Long Yanwei's introduction. Most importantly, the deep-sea demonic flood dragon was good at defense. This was undoubtedly the biggest help to her. Moreover, Xiren's Berserk Earth-Splitting Tiger was extremely strong on land. Her deep-sea demonic flood dragon was extremely strong in the sea. Just this amphibious characteristic alone was already something that ordinary contracted beasts couldn't compare to. Thank you, Master Long. Shangguan Yingying quickly bowed to Long Yanwei. Her face was filled with a pleasantly surprised smile. She couldn't retract the smile on her lips. Not only Shangguan Yingying, but Bailey Hongzhuang and the others were also delighted. They were worried that their contracted beasts' fighting strength would be greatly reduced in the sea. They didn't expect Shangguan Yingying to have a Yao beast that was suitable for underwater combat. After the deep-sea demonic flood dragon reached adulthood, its body would become extremely large. If it could carry them, they wouldn't need a boat at all. Whether it was speed or safety, it would greatly increase. In the end, Long Yanwei's gaze fell on Di Beichen. Di Beichen, according to my understanding of you, I didn't find any shortcomings in your battles. In other words, you're a comprehensive fighter. Whether it's strength, speed, or defense, you've developed in a balanced manner. Therefore, when I was choosing a contracted beast for you, I didn't deliberately focus on any one aspect. Instead, I chose a Yao beast that also developed in a balanced manner. Previously, when he was watching the battle between Bailey Hongzhuang and the others, Long Yanwei had always thought that the White Lion was Di Beichen's contract beast. Therefore, he had focused on the battle between Di Beichen and Gao Hanshan. Many cultivators had their own direction of development, such as strength, speed, or defense. However, there was another type of cultivator that focused on balanced development. The characteristic of a well-rounded and balanced development was that he was not particularly good in any aspect, but at the same time, he did not have any shortcomings. This kind of cultivator was the strongest in a one-on-one battle, while cultivators with more focus would perform better in a group battle. As far as Long Yanwei was concerned, he admired cultivators who were all-round. However, there were not many such cultivators. However, it was very coincidental that whether it was Di Beichen or Bailey Hongzhuang, both of them were well-rounded cultivators. In addition to one Xiren who was good at speed and Shangguan Yingying who was good at strength, they were a very compatible combination. Hearing Long Yanwei's words, Di Beichen also nodded. He also had a certain understanding of his own situation. Chapter 33:56. All-round development meant that he needed to put in more effort and time. However, Di Beichen did not care about this. No matter how much effort he had to put in, it was fine as long as he could become stronger in the end. In order to allow him to develop in a balanced way, his master had made many cultivation plans for him since he was young. That was why he had developed to his current state. The mysterious fire devil rock is an all-round monster beast. Its strength, speed, and defense are all developed. No matter which aspect it is, there is no fault to be found. However, because it is very well-rounded, there is nothing special about it. I believe you're very clear about this, right? Hearing this, Di Beichen nodded slightly. He was a cultivator himself, so he was very clear about such characteristics. No matter what kind of cultivation method it was, each had its own benefits. He felt that he and the mysterious fire devil rock were undoubtedly very suitable. In this way, it meant that he and the mysterious fire devil rock could fight separately. Just like Bailey Hongzhuang and Bai Shi, they belong to the same type. The mysterious fire devil rock's body is very large and has the ability to fly. In this way, your small team can be considered to be completely balanced. The smile on Long Yanwei's lips gradually widened. When he was considering the battle characteristics of Di Beichen and the other two, he had also considered their small team of 4. After Long Yanwei's reminder, Bailey Hongzhuang and the other two finally understood that Long Yanwei had helped them consider this. Bailey Hongzhuang's 3 contracted beasts were all good at fighting on land. Sometimes they often felt that it would be best if they had a flying monster beast to help them. A flying monster beast could directly carry them in the air, greatly reducing the travel time. And after arriving at Penglai Island, they felt that if they had a marine contracted beast, it would be of great help to them. They never thought that with Long Yanwei's help, they would be able to accomplish this. It was simply a huge surprise for them. Master Long, thank you so much. Bailey Hongzhuang and the other 3 bowed to Long Yanwei at the same time. This help was simply too great. This kind of gratitude was not something that could be expressed with just words. They had never thought that Long Yanwei would actually help them so thoroughly. If these 3 demon pet eggs were to be taken out, then they would truly be priceless treasures. Once this contracted beast grew up, it would be of great help to them. It would be a complete upgrade to their overall strength. Although Izihua knew that the level of the demon pet eggs that Long Yanwei gave to Bewitching and the other 2 wasn't bad, he never thought that Long Yanwei would actually consider them to such an extent. It was truly beyond his expectations. When Long Yanwei helped a cultivator choose a contract beast, he would always carefully choose the most suitable one. However, it was rare for him to be so attentive. You are all recruited by me. To be honest, although there are many talented cultivators on Penglai Island, there are very few cultivators that can catch my eye. Although you are still very young, I believe that as long as you continue to develop, you will definitely make a name for yourselves in Penglai Palace. I hope you will not disappoint me. Chapter 33:57. Hearing Long Yanwei's words that came from the bottom of his heart, Bailey Hongzhuang and the others also understood his deep meaning. Although they did not understand why Long Yanwei thought so highly of them, they understood that no matter what, they did not want to disappoint Long Yanwei's expectations of them. Master Long, don't worry. We will definitely not disappoint you. A strong sense of seriousness and determination appeared on the faces of the 4 of them. If it was said that they did not have any sense of belonging to the Penglai Palace before, but now, just based on the friendship that Long Yanwei had towards them, they had to perform well. Otherwise, they would be letting Long Yanwei down. They had never thought of themselves as good people, but repaying kindness had always been their code of conduct. Long Yanwei and them were only strangers who had met by chance. He had only recruited them because he had taken a fancy to their potential. After being cheated, he still spared no effort to think for them. If Long Yanwei's reputation was damaged because of them, then they would be too weak. At this moment, Bailey Hongzhuang and the other 3 made up their minds. They would definitely perform better in the Penglai Palace. Since everyone had already pulled them together with Master Long, then they had to at least become an existence that would make Master Long proud. Looking at the serious expressions of Bailey Hongzhuang and the other 3, a hint of gratification appeared in Long Yanwei's eyes. He smiled faintly and said, "Then I'll look forward to your performance. Master Long, I wonder if we can complete the contract here before leaving?" At this moment, Bewitching slowly spoke out his thoughts. Right now, the disciples of the Outer Palace were all eyeing them covetously. Presumably, there were many cultivators waiting for them to return. If they did not complete the contract, then it would be a chaotic battle the moment they left. It was not that they did not have the confidence to protect the demon pet egg, but that way, there would be a lot of trouble. Most importantly, if they killed too many cultivators, the impact would not be too good. As Bewitching's voice fell, Long Yanwei immediately smiled and nodded. "No problem. That was my original plan." In the next moment, Long Yanwei waved his hand, and the cultivator who led Bailey Hongzhuang and the other 3 here entered. He immediately led Bailey Hongzhuang and the other 3 to the house next door. After Bewitching and the others left, Izihua looked at Long Yanwei in surprise. "Yanwei, isn't the price you paid this time a little too great? Even I don't understand it." Such treatment was something that even the most outstanding disciples of the Inner Palace might not be able to enjoy. Yet, Long Yanwei had given it to 3 Outer Palace disciples who had just arrived. When this news spread out, not to mention the Outer Palace disciples, even other people would definitely think that Long Yanwei had gone mad. Hearing this, Long Yanwei chuckled. "I feel that these 4 little fellows are very interesting. Just like the first time I met them, they're a little smart, but the integrity in their bones has always existed. In any case, I've already suffered a loss, so what does it matter if this loss is a little bigger? This time, I want to bet on my foresight. I keep having the feeling that they will bring me a surprise." Chapter 33:58. However, there's one thing that I agree with you. These 4 little guys do have a lot of potential. Izihua couldn't help but recall the performance of Bailey Hongzhuang and the other 3 just now. That gratitude came from the bottom of his heart. Of course, Every cultivator who obtained a demon pet egg from Long Yanwei would feel grateful to Long Yanwei. However, the degree of gratitude was somewhat different. Just now, he clearly saw the thick seriousness from Deep Beichin and the other three's expressions. Obviously, they really treated Long Yanwei as their benefactor. Not only that, these four little guys are also people who value friendship and righteousness. Long Yanwei's lips curled into a slight smile. 3 demon pet eggs to gain affection. It's hard to say which one is more precious. Izihua nodded his head. From these little fellows, I can indeed see a seriousness and affection that those cultivators do not have. I will look forward to seeing that you have made the right bet this time. However, when the palace master finds out about this matter and comes to find trouble with you, you better not drag me along with you. Most of the cultivators in Penglai Island had climbed all the way up. They had experienced too many betrayals and betrayals. Therefore, although it seemed like a large group of people were still together, many people's hearts were closed and didn't believe in anyone. Even to their benefactor, they could betray them at any time, because they had experienced too much when they were enduring this betrayal and being betrayed. Everyone had a certain awareness. However, to be in this kind of situation all year round, it was unavoidably disappointing. However, from Bailey Hongzhuang and the other three, they saw a kind of passion and loyalty that they hadn't seen for a long time. At the very least, they believed that Bailey Hongzhuang and the other three had absolute trust between them. This time, only Di Beichin and the other two obtained a demon pet egg. However, from the beginning to the end, Bailey Hongzhuang didn't reveal the slightest bit of jealousy and envy. On the contrary, she was only sincerely happy for Di Beichin and the other two. This proved that she was thinking about the whole team and not herself. This kind of sincerity, even if one wanted to fake it, it couldn't be faked. After hearing Izihua's words, Long Yanwei's face, which was originally full of smiles, couldn't help but collapse. He said, "Zihua, I just said that I'm loyal to my friends. You can't just abandon me like this." After Bailey Hongzhuang and the other three closed the door, everyone's face was filled with joy. "Oh my God, I feel so blessed that such a good thing actually fell on my head." Shang Guanying's face was filled with joy. She pulled Bailey Hongzhuang and said, "Hongzhuang, quickly, pinch me so that I can judge whether I'm dreaming or not." Is... Really? Shang Guanying's face was still filled with disbelief. Deep Sea Devil Dragon. Just hearing this name makes me feel that it's amazing. In the future, I will also have a contract beast. Di Beichin and Wen Xiren were also in a state of excitement. Master Long has done us a great favor. As long as we cultivate this contract beast, our future fighting strength will be greatly increased. Chapter 33:59. Under such circumstances, if anyone dared to underestimate them, they would definitely suffer. From the looks of it, Master Long must have been under a lot of pressure to take out these 3 demon pet eggs. In fact, if this news were to spread out, it would have a great impact on us, but it would also have a great impact on Master Long. Her ink-black phoenix eyes flashed with a wise and far-sighted light. Bailey Hongzhuang's pretty face quietly revealed a hint of seriousness. Everyone had been guessing what kind of relationship they had with Master Long. The 4 of them were just newcomers who had just arrived at the Penglai Palace. In fact, other than being a little unpleasant, this kind of slander didn't have much of an impact on them. However, Master Long was different from them. Master Long's position in the Penglai Palace was extremely high. His reputation had always been very good. Now, he was being questioned just because he helped them. Speaking of which, this trouble was brought by them. Listening to Bailey Hongzhuang's words, Di Beichin and the other two's eyes darkened. This was indeed a big problem. This kind of rumor can't be eliminated in a short period of time. Only after we show enough strength can we suppress all these rumors. Thinking about it, Master Long should also be aware of this, which is why he said such words to us. Di Beichin pursed his thin lips and comforted everyone. When Xiren shrugged, "Now that things have developed to this point, we'll just use our ability to shut those annoying guys up. With Master Long's character, I'm afraid he's not afraid of these rumors at all. If he really cared, he wouldn't have given us these demon pet eggs now. Bailey Hongzhuang nodded her head lightly. A smile once again appeared on her face. Right now, the most important thing is to complete the contract. Don't think about other things. Following Bailey Hongzhuang's words, Di Beiqin and the others' gazes also fell on the demon pet eggs in front of them. In the next second, the four of them couldn't help but look at each other and began to contract with the demon pet eggs. Bailey Hongzhuang stayed quietly at the side to protect everyone. Although the contract process was simple, they couldn't be disturbed by others. Di Beiqin and the other two all cut their fingers and dripped their blood onto the demon pet egg. As the fresh blood gradually dripped down, the demonic pet egg seemed to be able to absorb it. Following the wound, it unceasingly absorbed the blood. At the same time, a mysterious and complex totem appeared on the demonic pet egg shell. It was the totem of a contract. Xiao He, Xiao Bai, and White Lion stayed beside Bailey Hongzhuang. Xiao He and Xiao Bai looked at the demon pet eggs in front of Di Beiqin and the other two, and then looked at White Lion beside them. They couldn't help but say, "White Lion, you're a beast king after all. Why was your demon pet egg so small back then? Compared to it, your demon pet egg really doesn't have any imposing manner at all." Xiao He clicked her tongue and shook her head. She had a look of disdain. Concentration is the essence. I was called cute back then, okay? White Lion said with dissatisfaction. How would it know why its demon pet egg was smaller in size? Cute your head. Xiao He curled her lips. We almost thought that you were an ornamental demon beast. Master thought that he had wasted an opportunity. Ha ha. Chapter 3360. It's just that when Bailey Hongzhuang said this sentence, she was somewhat guilty. Back then in Fengbo country, she didn't expect the royal family of Fengbo country to give such a good demon pet egg. However, at that time, she also needed to increase her cultivation. In addition, there was no limit to the number of contracted beasts, so she made the contract. Now that she thought about it, her luck back then was really good. If she gave up on the contract because she felt that the level of the contracted beast sealed inside was too low, then she would really be screwed. After getting Bailey Hongzhuang's answer, Baisha revealed a comfortable smile and raised his eyebrows at Xiao He to express his dissatisfaction. At least I still have a demon pet egg. You guys don't even have it that time. Look at you guys now. If there's a demon pet egg, it's probably only the size of a fingernail, right? Baisha smiled contemptuously. These two guys always liked to attack him. Speaking of which, he was curious about Xiao He and Xiao Bai's demon pet egg. Hearing Baisha's words, Xiao He and Xiao Bai couldn't help but be stunned. After looking at each other, they felt that Baisha's words weren't without reason. Not only Xiao He and Xiao Bai, but Bailey Hongzhuang also had the same feeling. Xiao He and Xiao Bai's figures had always been so small. If they were sealed into demon pet eggs, then they would be even smaller than a quail egg. Thinking of this, Xiao He and Xiao Bai suddenly fell into silence. This topic wasn't suitable for them to continue talking about. It was better to change the topic. Just as the three beasts were chatting, Di Beiqin and the other two had already completed the contract. Then, the sound of an eggshell cracking rang out. Kacha, kacha, kacha. Following the sound of the first eggshell cracking, the other two demon pet eggs also emitted the sound of eggshell cracking. Seeing this, Bailey Hongzhuang immediately walked to Di Beiqin's side and curiously looked at the appearance of these little guys being born. No matter what kind of demonic beast it was, it looked very cute when it was young. Di Beiqin's mystical fire demon rock was the first to break the shell. Its small mouth pecked and ate the eggshell. Although its mouth was very small, it was very fast. In the blink of an eye, it had finished eating the entire eggshell. After eating the eggshell, the little fellow couldn't help but rub its round belly with its wings. Only then did a satisfied smile appear on its face. At this moment, the little guy looked at Di Beiqin and immediately snuggled into Di Beiqin's arms. With the existence of the contract, even if it was just born, it would know who its closest master was. The little guy was currently brown all over. Although he was just born, his size was not small. However, his childish appearance was still very cute. When Bewitching saw the little guy, a big smile appeared on his face. He could feel the connection between him and the little guy, as if they were family. He liked the little guy from the bottom of his heart. Haha, this little guy is very affectionate towards you. Bailey Hongzhuang's face was full of smiles. Looking at the mystical fire demon rock that was unwilling to come out from Bewitching's arms, she only felt that it was very cute. At the same time, Xiren and Shangguan Yingying's contracted beasts also finished eating the eggshell and ran out one after another. Xiren's wild, earth-splitting tiger was the size of a puppy. However, it wasn't a newborn puppy, but an adult puppy. Chapter 3361. An adult berserk, earth-shattering tiger was a very domineering existence. However, this cub had a different kind of cuteness. It didn't have too much might or domineering aura. It only had a little childish voice in its heroic spirit, which made people unable to resist it. Shangguan Yingying's deep-sea demonic Jiao dragon looked like a mysterious snake. Its body was covered with tiny scales, but it looked very shiny. Under the sunlight, it reflected a bit of dark light. It was not simple. At this moment, the deep-sea demonic Jiao dragon was wrapped around Shangguan Yingying's arm. It looked very intimate. If it was any other day, Shangguan Yingying would definitely feel her scalp go numb when she saw the deep-sea demonic Jiao dragon. However, she had an indescribable feeling of intimacy and joy towards the deep-sea demonic Jiao dragon in front of her. This feeling of being in perfect harmony was like seeing one's closest kin. There was no rejection at all. It felt as if the man and the beast were connected and became a whole. This feeling is really magical. It's clearly my first time seeing it, but it's not just a normal kind of intimacy. Shangguan Yingying's eyes flashed with amazement. Originally, she was worried about how to get along with this little guy and how to cultivate their relationship. However, after the contract was completed, she felt that all of this was no longer necessary. Even though it was their first time meeting, she felt that they had been together for a long time and understood each other very well. Hearing Shangguan Yingying's words, Xiren also nodded in agreement. Indeed, I've heard others talk about this feeling before. Now that I've experienced it myself, I truly feel how magical this feeling is. Bewitching's handsome face revealed a joyful and gentle smile. The little guy in his arms really had a different kind of cuteness. Back then, Baisha was also like this when it stuck to Bailey Hongzhuang's arms all day long. They've just been born. I'm afraid they're still a little unfamiliar with the outside world. You should accompany them for the next 2 days. Bailey Hongzhuang was full of smiles. These little guys were usually sealed not long after they were born. In addition, the first person they saw was their master. Therefore, they had the feeling that their master was their parent. When they were just born, they were the most clingy. However, demonic beasts always had the nature of demonic beasts. As long as they were familiar with the environment, their courage would also show. Hearing this, Bewitching and the other two nodded with a smile. Presumably, having these little fellows by their side in the future would be a different experience. In my opinion, you don't have to keep them in your contract space anymore. Just keep them in your chaos ring. The chaos ring's range of activity is very large. White Lion, Xiao He, and Xiao Bai can also help to look after it and cultivate their friendship at the same time. Bailey Hongzhuang's gaze landed on Baisha, Xiao He, and Xiao Bai. Her exquisite and beautiful face flashed with an elegant smile. Since they were on such good terms, it was only natural for their contracted beasts to be on good terms with each other as well. It just so happened that Xiao He, Xiao Bai, and White Lion were usually busy bickering. It was undoubtedly the best choice to leave the 3 little fellows in their care. This could be considered as giving them something to do. Chapter 3362. Currently, they were in troubled times in the Penglai Palace. There were many troublesome matters, and it would not be convenient for them to split their attention to take care of the 3 little ones. However, Bailey Hongzhuang had 3 extremely powerful contract beasts. It was more than appropriate to give them the contract beasts. Not bad, not bad. It just so happens that Xiao He and Xiao Bai don't have much to do. This nanny mission is very suitable for them. Shangwan Ying was full of smiles. She could not bear to let her contract beasts suffer with her as soon as they were born. Who knew if they would be in big trouble if they went out now? Bai Shi, Xiao He, and Xiao Bai could not help but look at Bailey Hongzhuang with a bitter expression. Master, nannies don't seem to be suitable for us, right? You haven't done it before. How do you know it's not suitable for you? Bailey Hongzhuang raised her eyebrows. I think this kind of thing is very suitable for you. You're all contract beasts. It should be easy for you to get along. Moreover, Xiao He, Xiao Bai, and how Bai Shi grew up, don't you know very well? The three beasts were collectively speechless. So it was useless no matter what they said now. I think this suggestion is very good. It's decided then. In the end, Di Beichun directly made the decision, leaving the three beasts with no chance to refute. After Di Beichun and the other two completed the contract, they appeared in front of Long Yanwei together. Long Yanwei looked at the little ones in Di Beichun and the other two's arms and could not help but smile. It seems that these three little ones are very satisfied with you. Thank you, Master Long. These contract beasts are really in line with what we have in mind. Di Beichun and the other two could not help but speak up. Long Yanwei smiled faintly. It is also my wish to be able to help these little ones find suitable masters. Now that I look at these three little ones, I can't help but think of the scene when they were sealed. Almost every time he tried to snatch a demonic beast cub, he would be hunted down by the parents of the demonic beasts. It was not easy to successfully snatch a demonic beast cub. Actually, the process of snatching the cubs of the demonic beasts was not very pleasant. On the contrary, there was a trace of guilt. However, every time he saw the intimacy between the cubs and the cultivators, he would feel much better. He didn't want to ruin the future of the demonic beasts because of this. Instead, he wanted to give them a different kind of life. He only hoped that they would feel that it was very good. Yizihuan nodded slightly. He understood Long Yanwei's feelings. Almost every time Long Yanwei went out to look for young demonic beasts, he would call him along. Therefore, he understood the process very well. Among the people present, other than Yizihua and Long Yanwei, there was another person who understood this feeling very well. This person was Bailey Hongzhuang. She was also a sealing master, but she didn't focus on sealing. She chose to learn sealing techniques because she wanted to help herself. Since the contract has been completed, we will take our leave first. Di Beichun said slowly. There was nothing else for them to do if they continued to stay here. It was better not to disturb Long Yanwei and Bailey Hongzhuang. At this time, Yizihua's voice also sounded. I'm afraid that you will be in a lot of trouble if you go out now. Do you want me to send someone to help you solve this problem? Chapter 3363. Just by thinking about it, Yizihua could guess what kind of situation they would encounter when they went out. Penglai Palace originally encouraged the cultivators to learn from each other. As long as there was a conflict, there was no need to endure it at all. They could just attack directly. This kind of robbery was naturally within the permitted scope. Even if Di Beichun and the other two had already completed the contract and it was impossible for the other cultivators to rob them, it was still very simple to trigger a battle. What Long Yanwei did this time was really crazy, so this battle would probably be unprecedentedly fierce. Hearing Yizihua's proposal, Bailey Hongzhuang and the other three looked at each other and finally chose to refuse. Master Yi, thank you for your kindness, but since this matter was caused by us, we will use our own means to solve it. As long as Master Yi spoke, the other cultivators would naturally not dare to do anything to them. However, this way, their reputation of not having true ability would be even more firmly pinned. They had already decided that they could no longer implicate Long Yanwei, so naturally, they could no longer be under the protection of Long Yanwei and Yizihua. They would have to face what they had to face sooner or later. If they were to shrink back now, their lives in the outer palace would be difficult in the future. Instead of being scolded as cowards, they might as well fight like this. No matter what the final result was, at least it would prove their true ability. Bailey Hongzhuang and the other three's answer was obviously beyond Yizihua's expectations. The current situation was very troublesome even for him. It was undoubtedly best for him to come forward and settle this conflict. He did not expect Bailey Hongzhuang and the other three to unanimously choose to refuse. Although it was somewhat difficult to understand in his heart, Yizihua had to admit that Bailey Hongzhuang and the other three's decision made him admire them more. Cultivators should have such a backbone. Although there were many troubles, as long as these troubles were solved one by one, the achievements after overcoming all obstacles would definitely not be comparable to ordinary people. Are you sure? Long Yanwei could not help but ask. With your current ability, it is very troublesome to face this. As the saying goes, 10 years is not too late for a gentleman to take revenge. Don't be too impulsive. Hearing the concern in Long Yanwei's words, Bailey Hongzhuang and the others could not help but feel touched. At the same time, the thoughts in their hearts became even more resolute. Long Yanwei had already done so much for them. How could they let Long Yanwei continue to worry about them? If this continued, then the four of them would really become cripples. Thank you for your concern. We'll think of a way to deal with it ourselves. Bewitching and the other three insisted on their own way of thinking. Seeing that Bailey Hongzhuang and the other three had already made up their minds, Long Yanwei and Yizihua did not say anything more. It was likely that they already had their own plans in their hearts. Then be careful. If there's anything you need our help with, don't mind it. Just tell us directly, Long Yanwei said slowly. Bailey Hongzhuang and the other three bowed and thanked Long Yanwei again before leaving his residence. After leaving Long Yanwei's residence, the faces of Bailey Hongzhuang and the other three were once again covered with a grave expression. Chapter 3364. In fact, she felt that this was the best way. Otherwise, once they went out, there was no way to solve this problem except by fighting. Most importantly, even if she was very confident in their strength, they couldn't handle the other side's numbers. The final result was hard to imagine, even for herself. However, at that time, Bailey Hongzhuang and the other three's attitude was unusually firm, so she didn't say anything more. Hearing this, Bailey Hongzhuang said in a deep voice, "Master Long has put his chips on us this time. If we can't give a satisfactory answer and need to ask for his help, it's equivalent to saying that we can't do it." They all knew very well that although Master Long said that they could ask for his help if they couldn't solve it, if they really went to Master Long for help, then their impression in Master Long's heart would be greatly reduced. This kind of thing, if not as a last resort, they would never do it. Long Yanwei's status was higher than theirs. In other words, Long Yanwei couldn't get anything in return from them. The two were not equal. As the saying goes, if a big shot's verbal promise was used once, then he wouldn't even have the right to speak in the future. Shangguan Yingying frowned. But if we go out now, this matter will be very difficult to handle. With that, Shangguan Yingying couldn't help but look at Xiren and Di Beichun. Do you have any plans? Are we going to stay in Penglai Palace or go to the Magic Tower? Stay in Penglai Palace. Di Beichun and Xiren gave a definite answer without hesitation. Seeing this, Shangguan Yingying couldn't help but be stunned. This attitude was completely different from before they came here. Now we can only fight. Bailey Hongzhuang's eyes flashed with a serious and dignified light. At present, they had no other choice but to go with this road. Originally, they planned to simply leave, but Long Yanwei had given them such a great favor. If they left like this, it would undoubtedly give everyone a reason to laugh at Long Yanwei. Therefore, after seeing the value of these three contract beasts, they had changed their minds. No matter how difficult their life in the outer palace was, they had to persevere. That's right. We have to give it our all in today's match. As long as we show enough ability, it will be enough, Di Beichun said in a deep voice. Shangguan Yingying frowned. Can you tell me what you plan to do? We can't deal with so many cultivators with our current strength. Anyone who heard the news that the four of them wanted to deal with so many cultivators from the outer palace would think that they were crazy. Looking at Shangguan Yingying's puzzled and anxious look, Xiren couldn't help but chuckle and immediately explained to Shangguan Yingying. Yingying, actually, this matter isn't as bad as you think. Shangguan Yingying still looked at Xiren with a puzzled expression. She was simply confused. They were the ones who said it was bad, and now they were the ones who said it wasn't so bad. What exactly was the situation in front of them? If we go out now, a battle is indeed unavoidable. However, there are still people in charge of the outer palace. When the commotion reaches a certain level, it will be time for them to step in. The blood of my body has begun to boil. Bai Shi, Xiao He, and Xiao Bai could not help but run out. They hurriedly said, "Our blood is boiling." The 4 people and 3 beasts looked at each other and smiled. A determined light appeared in their eyes. They were already prepared for the upcoming bloody battle. After making the decision, Bailey Hongzhuang and the others did not stay any longer. They immediately walked out. Chapter 3366. After Bailey Hongzhuang and the other 3 left, Long Yanwei and Yi Zihua, who were in the room, also revealed a curious expression. "Yanwei, how do you think these 4 little fellows will deal with this matter? In my opinion, I'm afraid they're planning to cause trouble when they go out now." As Long Yanwei's voice fell, Yi Zihua couldn't help but laugh. "Haha, I feel that these 4 little fellows are getting more and more interesting. I'm looking forward to how much trouble they can cause. We've seen their fighting strength last time. If they really cause trouble, I reckon that the movements of these fellows won't be small." Even though Long Yanwei had already expected that the commotion caused by Bailey Hongzhuang and the other 3 wouldn't be small, they never thought that the commotion would be so big. Bailey Hongzhuang and the other 3 gradually returned to the residential area of the outer palace disciples with the conviction of facing death with equanimity. The moment they stepped into the residential area, they already felt countless covetous gazes falling on them. This kind of gaze was filled with aggression, as if they were treating Bailey Hongzhuang and the other 3 as their targets. These 4 fellows have returned from Master Long's place. I presume that the demon pet egg has already fallen into their hands. That's right, Master Long's subordinate said that Master Long and Master Yi left together to choose the demon pet egg, but that guy's already been kicked out of the Penglai Palace. So to say, as long as we rob them, the demon pet egg will fall into our hands? The eyes of the outer palace disciples flashed with excitement. Thinking about being able to obtain the demon pet egg, they couldn't help but be excited. This discussion naturally fell into the ears of Bailey Hongzhuang and the other 3. Only then did they know that Master Long had already chased away the subordinate who leaked the news, and they couldn't help but feel a little more comforted in their hearts. Along the way, Bailey Hongzhuang and the others only felt that with every step they took, there was a trace of danger. In fact, they were very clear in their hearts that the reason why these fellows hadn't made a move yet wasn't because they were afraid of them, but because they were afraid of the other outer palace disciples present. There were only 3 demon pet eggs in total. If someone came up to deal with them first, the other cultivators would very likely be the mantis stalking the cicada, unaware of the oriole behind, so no one dared to act rashly. Of course, this situation did not last long before it was broken. "Yo, cowards, have you returned from Master Long's place? Is Lord Long having a good time?" At this moment, a burly fatty walked out and blocked the path of Bailey Hongzhuang and the others. Looking at the fat man's face, Bailey Hongzhuang and the others only felt that he was an eyesore. Shangguan Yingying narrowed her eyes. She remembered this guy. Many of those unpleasant words and guesses came from this fatty. "Damn fatty, what does it have to do with you? If you continue to be long-winded, do you believe that I will kill you?" Shangguan Yingying opened her mouth and spoke in a domineering tone. The outer palace disciples present couldn't help but gasp when they heard Shangguan Yingying's words. This fatty was at the 7th level of the Purple Realm. Among the outer palace disciples, his cultivation was considered quite strong. Chapter 3367. Not only the cultivators present, but even Bailey Hongzhuang and the other 2 were stunned when they heard Shangguan Yingying's words. They had already guessed that the hot-tempered Shangguan Yingying would not be polite with her words, but they did not expect her to be so straightforward and domineering. Shangguan Yingying was happy when she knew that she could explode at will. She had been holding back her anger for a long time. Since she did not need to care about anything now, she would naturally find something to say. After all, they would have to fight in the end, right? Fatty was dumbfounded when he heard Shangguan Yingying's words. He had been mocking Bailey Hongzhuang and the other three since the beginning. The four of them had been swallowing their anger and did not dare to talk back. He was very satisfied with this. It was a good opportunity to show his strength. However, Shangguan Yingying dared to say that she wanted to kill him. Kill me. Fatty frowned coldly. He pointed at himself, and then at Shangguan Yingying. Who do you think you are? You don't need to care who I am. However, I only know one thing. A good dog does not block the way. Shangguan Yingying looked at Fatty coldly. The more she looked at Fatty, the more unhappy she was. Cultivators put their mind on cultivation every day. She did not know how Fatty got so fat. He was really an eyesore. You dare to call me a dog? Fatty widened his eyes. He had been in the outer hall for so long, and no cultivator had dared to call him that. Shangguan Yingying smiled. You said it yourself. I think you want to die, right? Anger surged in the fatty's heart, and his eyes became increasingly sharp. A faint murderous aura had already spread out. I think you want to die more, right? Bewitching said coldly. His cold and sharp eyes looked directly at Fatty. The coldness in his eyes was enough to freeze people. The fat man, who had already wanted to attack, couldn't help but quiver after seeing Bewitching's gaze. He couldn't understand it in his heart. He had been in Penglai Island for so long. How could his murderous aura not be comparable to a newcomer who had just arrived? When the disciples who had been waiting to watch the show saw the completely different attitude of Bailey Hongzhuang and the other three, their expressions became interesting. Why did these four fellows suddenly change their personalities? Wasn't there no response, no matter how much he insulted her before? This is a direct provocation. I don't know what's wrong with them. Could it be that they received some news from Master Long? Or are they under Master Long's protection, so they don't care at all? He's just a newcomer who just came to the Outer Palace, yet he's already so arrogant and independent. If he's not taught a lesson, he'll probably become even more lawless in the future. So what if he has Master Long's protection? These people don't know their limits. As long as they take the initiative to attack, then all of this naturally has nothing to do with us. If we accidentally kill them, the things in the Chinquan bag will naturally belong to the winner. The outer hall disciples were discussing animatedly. Suddenly, their faces were filled with interest. Everyone was full of expectations for the Chinquan bag of these four fellows, especially the demon pet egg. It was really a treasure that couldn't be compared to anything. Chapter 3368. The leader of the Heaven-Shaking clan, Gao Hanshun, had a certain reputation on Penglai Island. Although it was far from being comparable to the three great forces, he knew that Gao Hanshun was a Purple Realm 8th level cultivator. If someone of this level of cultivation could die at the hands of Bailey Hongzhuang and the other three, it was enough to prove that the strength of these four guys was not simple. Thinking of this, the fatty could not help but turn around and look at his friends. Noticing the fatty's gaze, three more cultivators suddenly walked up and appeared in front of Bailey Hongzhuang and the others. It happened to be a 4-against-4 team. You said I want to die? The fatty sneered and reached out his hand towards Bewitching, wanting to pat Bewitching's face. Xiao Bai face. A place like the Outer Palace is not suitable for a guy like you to stay. Why don't you go home and drink milk? However, just as the fatty was about to move, Bewitching had already slapped the fatty's hand back. If it's not suitable for Xiao Bai faces like us, then is it suitable for a damn fatty like you? Xiren sneered. Although we've only been in the Outer Palace for a short period of time, according to my observation, there aren't many disciples in the Outer Palace who are as ugly as you. Following Xiren's words, the fatty's face instantly turned ugly. The degree of ugly expression was even more serious than when Shangguan Yingying said that she wanted to kill him. Thinking about it, Xiren's words really poked the fatty's sore spot. Not only that, the surrounding disciples could not help but laugh after hearing this. The fatty's appearance was really a sore spot. Usually, many people despised him. The fatty was also self-aware and did not mention this point. He was usually so overbearing that no one wanted to be the fatty's enemy. Naturally, no one would take the initiative to talk about this. However, at this moment, Zyron did not give him any face and said all this out loud. Naturally, everyone could not help but laugh. Fatty's expression turned cold. His malicious gaze locked on his Zyron, and his voice was bone-chilling. "Stinking brat, I'm going to kill you." However, in the face of such threatening words filled with killing intent, Zyron did not feel anything. He only pretended to be afraid and patted his chest, saying, "Io, I'm so scared. You're courting death." At this moment, the fatty could no longer endure it. He had stayed in the outer palace for such a long time, and it had been a long time since someone had dared to humiliate him like this. Facing the shame and indignation on the fat man's face, the sarcasm in the eyes of Bailey Hong Zhuang and the others was even more obvious. This guy was just humiliated by them and was already angry like this. He didn't even think about how he had humiliated them before. It was simply ridiculous. In the next moment, the origin energy in the fat man's body surged out. He punched out with his right fist, aiming directly at Zyron's face. The more he looked at this fellow, the more annoyed he felt. He wanted to take this fellow's life first. Zyron was already prepared to defend himself. When the fatty's fist appeared, he dodged to the side and dodged the fatty's attack. At the same time, his fist also attacked. Seeing this, Bailey Hong Zhuang and the others secretly praised Zyron in their hearts. In that case, the fatty was the one who made the first move, and the responsibility fell entirely on the fatty's shoulders. It had nothing to do with him at all. Chapter 3369. The three cultivators also felt that something was amiss. No matter what, Bailey Hong Zhuang and the other three were all people that Master Long had recruited. Before this, they had clearly discussed how to force Bailey Hong Zhuang and the other three to make the first move. That way, they wouldn't have to worry about Master Long's reprimand. However, they didn't expect that instead of angering Bailey Hong Zhuang to death, it was when Zyron who had angered the fatty. Being ugly had always been the fatty's sore point. After all, there weren't many cultivators who still looked the same after reaching such a cultivation level. Now that Zyron had mercilessly scolded him, coupled with the mockery of the surrounding crowd, it was normal for the fatty to not be able to take it. Now, they could only say that they had failed at the first step. However, as long as they could kill Bailey Hong Zhuang and the other three, all of these problems wouldn't exist. Seeing that their opponents had come forward together, Bailey Hong Zhuang and the other three looked at each other and immediately faced their respective opponents. As their opponents' auras completely exploded, Bailey Hong Zhuang and the other three were clearly aware of their cultivations. 1 purple realm 7th level, 2 purple realm 6th level, and 1 purple realm 5th level. Looking at this formation, Bailey Hong Zhuang and the other three couldn't help but laugh coldly in their hearts. As long as no purple realm 8th level cultivator appeared, the other cultivators wouldn't be able to pose a huge threat to them. Bewitching stood in front of the fatty without hesitation. Even though the fatty wanted to kill Zyron, he could only narrow his eyes when he saw Bewitching standing in front of him. "Since you want to die first, I'll fulfill your wish." The fatty's eyes were filled with a cold and ruthless light. He hadn't been so angry in a long time. Hee. Bewitching laughed coldly. The contempt and disdain in his eyes were extremely thick. He was only at the 7th level of the purple realm, yet he dared to be so arrogant in front of him. It seemed that if he didn't give him a resounding slap, he wouldn't know how much he was worth. Bailey Hong Zhuang and 1 Zyron were up against 2 purple realm level 6 practitioners. Shangguan Yingying stood in front of the purple realm level 5 practitioner, her heart leaping with joy. Now, it all depended on her performance. Even though they had just arrived at Penglai Island not long ago, their ability to fight beyond their level had never disappeared. Usually, as long as their opponent was not an exceptionally powerful practitioner of the same level, ordinary practitioners of the same level would not be their opponent at all. The battle broke out in an instant. Bailey Hong Zhuang locked her eyes on the skinny dwarf in front of her. She had to admit that birds of a feather flocked together. Fatty's friends didn't look good at all. At the very least, the guy in front of her was not as tall as her. He looked like a mouse, a bit slippery, but without any aura. Beauty, I heard that your name is Bailey Hongzhuang. The man's eyes revealed a wretched light. As long as you give me the demon pet egg, I'll let you go. How about it? Your skin is so soft and tender, I really can't bear to lay my hands on you. Hearing that, Bailey Hongzhuang's lips hooked up into a sneer. You can't bear to lay your hands on me, but I can. After saying that, Bailey Hongzhuang was too lazy to talk nonsense with this man. Her fist directly stretched out and attacked the opponent's neck without hesitation. Today, not only did they come to cause trouble, they also came to prove their ability. So this battle would not drag on. Chapter 3370. Although he did not think that a few newcomers to Penglai Island could be that powerful, since he had already made his move, he naturally would not diminish his own prestige. If Bailey Hongzhuang was unwilling to submit, then he could only use his own strength to make Bailey Hongzhuang submit. Bang! The moment their fists collided, the man's expression changed completely. Too powerful. Bailey Hongzhuang's strength was simply too powerful. Crack! The crowd could even hear the slight sound of bones cracking. The shorty immediately retracted his fist. The intense pain from his fist made him not dare to fight Bailey Hongzhuang head-on. With such a difference in strength, if he fought head-on, he would be the one at a disadvantage. However, Bailey Hongzhuang did not intend to give him any time to think. With a flash of her body, she immediately appeared beside the cultivator. At the same time, a torrential storm of attacks landed mercilessly on the cultivator's body. Bang, bang, bang. The shorty kept dodging, but his dodging speed was not as fast as Bailey Hongzhuang's. Shadow shifting technique was a movement technique that Bailey Hongzhuang was proud of in her previous life. Now, she had already mastered shadow shifting technique. If the cultivator was not proficient in speed, they would not be able to keep up with her speed. What happened next was beyond everyone's expectations. This was because the Purple Realm Level 6 shorty had become Bailey Hongzhuang's target. In terms of speed, he could not dodge Bailey Hongzhuang. In terms of strength, he could not defeat Bailey Hongzhuang. Therefore, he could only become a dodging target. However, Bailey Hongzhuang's every attack landed squarely on his body. Bang, bang, bang. The strong and fierce power brought with it a sharp gust of wind. Bailey Hongzhuang did not intend to give her opponent any chance to retaliate. Since she had already made her move, she would use the simplest method to completely eliminate her opponent. In the eyes of the crowd, the short man's body was shaking like a sieve. At the same time, they could also see the blooming of blood. Seeing this scene, everyone's expression couldn't help but change. They didn't expect Bailey Hongzhuang's strength to be so powerful. A Purple Realm 6th level cultivator was being chased and beaten by a Purple Realm 5th level cultivator, and he didn't even have a chance to retaliate. This was a little too exaggerated. Unfortunately, all of this was happening right in front of them. Even if they didn't want to believe it, it still happened. Bang! Bailey Hongzhuang threw out another punch. The short man could no longer withstand such a fierce attack. His body flew out and landed heavily on the ground. The man's gaze towards Bailey Hongzhuang was no longer filled with the contempt from before. Instead, it was filled with deep fear and terror. He did not expect Bailey Hongzhuang to be so powerful. Even though he knew that the Purple Realm 8th level Gao Hanshan had died at the hands of Bailey Hongzhuang and the other three, he always thought that it was because of the poison used by Bailey Hongzhuang and the other three. He never thought that they would have such strength. Spitting out a mouthful of blood, the man's aura instantly withered. He only felt a sharp pain in his internal organs, as if they had been displaced. In the next second, Bailey Hongzhuang slowly walked in front of the man. Her beautiful face was filled with coldness and frost, revealing a distant coldness and the indifference of the Grim Reaper. Chapter 3371. What are you trying to do? At this moment, the man no longer dared to underestimate Bailey Hongzhuang. This extremely beautiful woman's attacks were not just any ordinary kind of ruthless. Just the wounds on his body alone would take a very long time to heal. On the surface, it looked like he had only suffered some external injuries, but in reality, the severity of his internal injuries had far exceeded anyone's expectations. Bailey Hongzhuang's red lips curled into a sexy yet languid angle. Her cold and emotionless eyes swept across the crowd. When the crowd noticed Bailey Hongzhuang's gaze, they felt an inexplicable chill. I've heard that the Outer Palace doesn't forbid killing. Following Bailey Hongzhuang's words, the man's face instantly drained of color. He never thought that Bailey Hongzhuang would have such an idea. You. The man was now in a complete panic. He stared at Bailey Hongzhuang as if he wanted to say something, but realized that he had no idea what to say. The cultivators in the crowd all turned their gazes towards Bailey Hongzhuang. Their eyes were filled with suspicion. The Outer Palace did indeed allow for battles, and it did not exclude the possibility of death. However, Bailey Hongzhuang has only been in the Outer Palace for a few days. They found it hard to believe that Bailey Hongzhuang would have such courage. You want to kill me? The man stared fixedly at Bailey Hongzhuang, clearly unable to believe that Bailey Hongzhuang would do such a thing. In the next second, Bailey Hongzhuang's smile widened. Since killing is not forbidden, why should I allow an eyesore like you to remain in the Outer Palace? Her voice fell, and before anyone could react, Bailey Hongzhuang's Luli sword had already pierced the man's chest without hesitation. The man spat out a mouthful of blood. His eyes were still fixed on Bailey Hongzhuang in disbelief. Up until the moment of his death, he still could not believe that Bailey Hongzhuang would kill him so cleanly. Bailey Hongzhuang's expression was calm and cold. Since they were here to cause trouble anyway, the bigger the situation, the better. Now, the Outer Palace disciples were eyeing them covetously and thought that they were sheep that could be easily bullied. Since it was impossible for them to live in harmony with everyone, they might as well display their powers so that the other party would not dare to cause any more trouble. If they wanted to survive in the Outer Palace, they would first need to build a good relationship with everyone. Second, they would need to instill fear in them. Now, the only thing they could do was the second option, so they had to show their ruthless side. Faced with such a Bailey Hongzhuang, the crowd was dumbfounded. From the beginning to the end, Bailey Hongzhuang and Shorty had only exchanged blows for a short period of time. At this moment, Shorty had completely disappeared from this world. None of them would have thought that this extremely beautiful and otherworldly woman in front of them would act so decisively. She did not hesitate to take someone's life. Her coldness and indifference reminded them of the beautiful Azura. While Bailey Hongzhuang was fighting, Shangwan Yingying's speed was even faster. Her opponent was only a 5th-level Purple Realm cultivator. She had completely crushed him with brute force. She remembered clearly how unpleasant the words these fellows had said. After living for so many years, she had never been insulted by such vulgar words. Chapter 3372. Compared to Bailey Hongzhuang's indifference and decisiveness, Shangwan Yingying's violence also made everyone's heart turn cold, because she directly stepped on the other party's mouth until it burst. The reason was that the other party spoke rudely, and the words he said were extremely unpleasant. So when she sent him to hell, she didn't give him the slightest chance to speak. Everyone had seen many ways to die, but they had never seen such a strange way to die. Looking at the completely distorted face, everyone couldn't help but feel a chill in their hearts. These two women were both first-class beauties, but who would have thought that the degree of ruthlessness was not inferior to their looks at all? Poisonous beauties, everyone couldn't help but think of this phrase in their minds. Previously, there were many people who had thoughts about Bailey Hongzhuang and Shangwan Yingying, but now it seemed that this wasn't an easy matter. The slightest bit of carelessness could cause them to lose their little lives. After Bailey Hongzhuang and Shangwan Yingying dealt with their opponents, they stood in the same place. They didn't have the slightest intention to help Di Beiqian and Wenziren, because They believed that Bewitching and Ziren would also quickly finish this battle. When the fatty saw his two companions die in the hands of Bailey Hongzhuang and Shangwan Yingying, he couldn't help but be dumbfounded. He never thought that Bailey Hongzhuang and Shangwan Yingying's strength would be so strong, and the speed at which they finished the battle was so fast. Originally, he thought that he could easily kill Bailey Hongzhuang and the others. As long as he obtained the demon pet egg, then he would be different from before. However, the reality was so cruel. His two companions were finished off just like that, and he was clearly at the 7th level of the Purple Realm, but against Di Beichun, he couldn't gain the slightest advantage. In this kind of battle, every moment he lasted was another moment of face slapping. If this spread out, if people didn't think that Di Beichun was too strong, then they would think that he was too weak. This wasn't an ordinary loss of face. Bang! Bang! When Di Beichun and when Ziren saw that Bailey Hongzhuang and Shangwan Yingying had finished their battle, they also sped up and finished off their opponents with lightning speed. Pa! After dealing with his opponent, Ziren clapped his hands, and a faint smile appeared on his cultured and refined face. Now, I can finally have some peace and quiet. Hearing Ziren's words, the surrounding crowd's expression couldn't help but change. It had to be said that when Ziren's elegant demeanor didn't match his words at all. To be so arrogant without any strength, this kind of person should have gone to hell long ago. Di Beichun's expression was cold as he stepped on the fatty's body. The disdain and coldness in his eyes became more and more obvious. Just with this level of strength, he wanted to snatch their demon pet eggs. It was a bit too laughable. I thought these guys knew us very well. I didn't expect them to not know us at all. Bailey Hongzhuang raised her eyebrows slightly. When they came out of the house, they had heard all kinds of discussions. All of this proved that during this period of time, everyone had already investigated their identities and backgrounds thoroughly. Logically speaking, everyone should have some understanding of their battle with Gao Hanshan. They didn't think that the other party would dare to find trouble with them with just this kind of formation. In fact, everyone had indeed investigated the battle between Bailey Hongzhuang and the others and Gao Hanshan. However, no one believed that they, who were only at the 5th level of the Purple Realm, could defeat Gao Hanshan. Chapter 3373. After dealing with the 4 fellows, Bailey Hongzhuang and the others quietly swept their gazes across the crowd. Many cultivators turned their gazes away when they noticed their gazes. They were secretly assessing the true power of Bailey Hongzhuang and the other 3. Fatty Heart and the other 3 were considered to be quite powerful among them. Now that they had been dealt with so easily, it was clear that it would not be an easy task for them to deal with Bailey Hongzhuang and the other 3. If they were to charge forward recklessly, they would most likely end up like Fatty Heart and the other 3. Bailey Hongzhuang and the other 3 had used their actions to prove their character. If anyone were to charge forward, it would either be their death or their own. No matter who it was, it had not been easy for them to reach this point. No one wanted to throw away their little lives here, so they had to think carefully. In an instant, the surrounding cultivators quieted down. Their gazes constantly scanned their surroundings, wondering who would make the next move. However, everyone clearly had the same idea, so no one dared to continue to cause trouble for the time being. Seeing this, Bailey Hongzhuang and the other 3 looked at each other. It seems that their move of killing the chicken to warn the monkey had a certain degree of effect. After killing 4 people, these fellows no longer dared to act blindly without thinking. In the next moment, Bailey Hongzhuang and the other 3 continued their journey towards the 5th building. It would be best if these fellows did not continue to cause trouble. However, if they insisted on causing trouble, they would have no choice but to fight to the end. Seeing Bailey Hongzhuang and the other 3 continue their journey, the crowd could not help but follow closely behind them, anticipating who would make the next move. This was the first time a scene like this had happened in the entire Outer Palace. As Bailey Hongzhuang and the other 3 drew closer to the 5th building, the crowd of Outer Palace disciples could not help but grow anxious. Once Bailey Hongzhuang and the other 3 returned to the building and completed the contract, it would be too late for them to do anything else. Why isn't anyone making a move? If they don't make a move now, it'll all be too late. I didn't expect the strength of these four fellows to be so strong. There may not be many people who are their opponents in a one-on-one fight, but as long as we attack together, the four of them will only die. Don't hesitate anymore. If you continue like this, you won't be able to get any benefits. Some of the disciples who weren't strong enough and wanted to get the demon pet eggs were already anxious. This was such a great opportunity. If they missed it, they didn't know when they would be able to get the demon pet eggs in the future. The other cultivators looked at each other in dismay. Thousands of thoughts ran through their minds. If they missed this opportunity, they would not have another chance. Everyone's emotions were complicated to the extreme. Bailey Hongzhuang and the other three were also paying attention to the changes in everyone's emotions. These fellows still haven't shown any signs of making a move. Don't tell me they're going to settle this just like that. Shangguan Yingying's eyes were filled with surprise. She was prepared to fight to the death, but she didn't expect everyone to stop now. It's not certain yet, unless it's until we enter the building, Bailey Hongzhuang transmitted. However, I feel that all of this won't be completed so smoothly. The closer the distance, the greater the danger. Chapter 3374. No matter who it is, there will always be some kind of wishful thinking, hoping that they can get the greatest benefits without any effort. The mantis stalks the cicada, unaware of the oriole behind, reaping the benefits of the fisherman. This is what everyone is most willing to do on a daily basis. Until the last step, no one is willing to be the first bird, but when it really comes to the last step, everyone can only take the risk. Therefore, although no one wants to make a move on them now, this doesn't mean that this problem is solved just like that. If all of this was really so easy to solve, then Master, he wouldn't have taken the initiative to help them solve this problem. Ying, you have to be mentally prepared. Next is a group battle. When Xiren chuckled, this kind of group battle, he really didn't participate in it. He didn't expect that he would become the target of everyone's siege as soon as he arrived at Penglai Palace. At the same time, he was also a little excited. Through this competition, he can also test what level his strength has reached. Shangguan Yingying nodded her head lightly, her eyes filled with determination and interest. Let's fight. I've never been afraid of fighting since I was young. Hearing Shangguan Yingying's words, Bailey Hongzhuang and the other two chuckled in their hearts. They really believe these words. Every time Shangguan Yingying makes a move, they can feel the violence in her bones. Thinking about it, not letting her make a move is what makes her feel the most uncomfortable. Just as Bailey Hongzhuang and the other three were getting closer and closer to building number 5, some cultivators finally couldn't hold it in anymore. For the demon pet egg, everyone, let's go together. A disciple took the lead and shouted. With his strength alone, it was naturally impossible to win. At this point, they could only gang up. No matter what the process is, as long as they can snatch this demon pet egg, it's fine. As the disciple's voice fell, the atmosphere suddenly changed. All the disciples looked at each other, and the desire in their eyes couldn't be more obvious. Do it. Everyone also knew that if they didn't make a move now, they wouldn't have a chance. Immediately, there were cultivators rushing towards Bailey Hongzhuang and the other three. After someone took the lead, the rest of the cultivators began to move as well. Regardless of whose hands this demon pet egg ended up in, they had to at least get this demon pet egg out of the hands of Bailey Hongzhuang and the other three. In just a short moment, Bailey Hongzhuang and the other three were surrounded by the crowd. Di Beichun, as long as you hand over the demon pet egg, we can let you live. A disciple took the lead and said, his gaze locked onto them. The strength displayed by Di Beichun's group of 4 was not weak. If they could directly obtain the demon pet egg, then they would be able to reduce some of the trouble. That's right. With just the strength of the 4 of you, it's impossible for you to be a match for us. Newcomers should keep a low profile here. If you want to blame someone, you can only blame yourself for showing off too much. The demon pet egg is not something that newcomers like you can touch. As long as you hand over the demon pet egg, you can still safely stay in the outer palace. Bailey Hongzhuang and the other 3 found it funny when they heard the words showing off too much. Chapter 3375. If I were to hand over the demon pet egg, there wouldn't be enough for so many of you, right? The corner of Bewitching's mouth curled up into a sneer. He looked at the disciple in front of him who was threatening him to hand over the demon pet egg and mocked. Hearing this, the disciple was also stunned for a moment. He said, "You don't need to care about this matter. You just need to hand over the demon pet egg first." The other disciples only surrounded Bailey Hongzhuang and the other three. They didn't make any moves. In fact, they had already made a decision in their hearts. Regardless of whether Bewitching and the other two obediently handed over the demon pet egg or not, they had to deal with these four fellows. After all, they were cultivators that Master Long had recruited. If Master Long were to make a fuss about it, no matter who obtained the demon pet egg, it would inevitably cause quite a bit of trouble. Only by cutting the weeds and eliminating the roots. Even if Master Long was furious, he wouldn't severely punish them for the four dead people. Bailey Hongzhuang and the other three had long seen through the other party's trick. In fact, they didn't play this kind of trick on a daily basis. If someone were to naively hand over the item, then that would be truly stupid. You guys don't have to fantasize anymore. The demon pet egg has already been contracted by us. You guys can't get anything. Shangguan Ying coldly said. These guys in front of her didn't seem to be ordinary annoying. She might as well break everyone's fantasies like this. Following Shangguan Ying's words, the cultivators present couldn't help but be stunned. Thick astonishment flashed across their faces. However, they were quickly refuted by the other cultivators. This is impossible. You don't need to tell such a clumsy lie to deceive us. What's impossible about that? Shangguan Ying raised her eyebrows. We are very clear about what you guys are planning. How could you possibly bring the demon pet egg out? The cultivators present looked at each other. For a moment, no one was able to determine whether what Shangguan Ying said was true or false. Why do you care so much? As long as the four of them die, wouldn't we be clear? Are you sure you don't want to hand over the demon pet egg? You're the unlucky ones. Everyone's eyes were fixed on Bailey Hongzhuang and the other three. The murderous intent in their eyes gradually thickened. They no longer had the mood to continue wasting time like this. Those who want our things are almost all dead. Bewitching's lips curled into a cold smile as he responded to the other party's threat with a counter-threat. As soon as he said that, the expressions of all the cultivators present changed. Rage immediately surged onto their faces. Don't be courteous with them, just attack. In a split second, vigorous elemental energy exploded in the outer hall. All the cultivators began to surround and attack Bailey Hongzhuang and the other three. If it were any other cultivator, they would have panicked when facing so many cultivators. However, Bailey Hongzhuang and the other three weren't that afraid, because during this period of time in the oceanic world, they had been facing such a situation. No matter how many cultivators were besieging them, they only needed to face the few cultivators in front of them. As for how long they could hold on, that would depend on their strength. Chapter 3376. With so many cultivators channeling their elemental energy at the same time, the commotion was extremely shocking. Xiao He and Xiao Bai had already appeared beside Bailey Hongzhuang. With their bodies shrunk, it was difficult for them to be noticed by other cultivators. In a group battle like this, it was undoubtedly very effective. Bai Shi did not appear together with them because they were already surrounded. The number of cultivators that the four of them faced was the same as the number of cultivators that each of them faced after Bai Shi appeared. It was impossible for them to kill so many cultivators at once. Hence, they had to hold on for a long enough time. This kind of tag team battle was very taxing on the cultivators. Even if they had some confidence in their endurance, they knew that they could not hold on forever. Even if Bai Shi appeared a little later, he could still help them withstand a certain amount of pressure and buy them some time to catch their breath. Master, are we going to take their lives or what? Xiao He could not help but ask. Once it joined forces with Xiao Bai to launch a sneak attack, the effect would be very obvious. Hence, They had to be clear about the limits of their attack. Just take care of them, Bailey Hongzhuang said without hesitation. Bailey Hongzhuang's eyes flashed with a ruthless light. These outer palace disciples in front of them clearly intended to take their lives. Since that was the case, there was no need for them to show any mercy. Furthermore, they were currently being ganged up on. If they took their opponents' lives, it meant that they would have to continue this tag team battle. This was extremely disadvantageous to them. If they wanted to resolve this situation, they could only take their opponents' lives directly. They believed that when more and more cultivators died, these people would be more cautious. Hearing Bailey Hongzhuang's words, Xiao He and Xiao Bai also nodded. If they had to be careful when they attacked, it would be troublesome for them to move. Since they did not have to worry about anything now, they could go all out. The battle erupted in an instant. Bailey Hongzhuang and the other three's elemental energy surged to the extreme. Before they could make a move, the others' attacks had already struck towards them. Seeing this, Bailey Hongzhuang and the other three reacted extremely quickly and quickly began to face the enemy. Bang, bang, bang. The sound of fists colliding continuously spread out as yuan power ripples continuously spread out. Both parties were extremely ruthless in their attacks, unwilling to give the other party even the slightest chance to breathe. In the course of this battle, Bailey Hongzhuang and the other three's movements were nimble and quick. Even though there were many people attacking them, they were still able to deal with them without panicking. Speaking of which, this was all thanks to their experience in the oceanic world. Thinking back to when they were besieged by monster beasts in the oceanic world, they were also flustered. However, as they gradually gained more experience, they became more proficient in dealing with group attacks. Compared to Bailey Hongzhuang and the other three's orderly attacks, the cultivators who were attacking in groups were clearly a little messy. They were not partners in the first place. At this moment, they were only working together for the same goal. All of their attacks were launched at the same time. Some of them landed on Bailey Hongzhuang and the other three's bodies, while some landed on the other cultivators. Chapter 33:77. This scene was obviously something that no one had expected. It was just that when they were attacking, they were accidentally affected by other cultivators. Naturally, it was inevitable that they would be a little angry. Then, those with bad tempers directly began to retaliate. Unknowingly, some cultivators had already begun to fight among themselves. Regarding this point, everyone felt speechless for a while. However, the goal of the vast majority of cultivators was still Bailey Hongzhuang and the other three. The monster pet egg was what they wanted wholeheartedly. Bang, bang, bang. The sound of elemental energy colliding constantly resounded. Cracks had already appeared on the flat ground in the midst of everyone's battle. Fortunately, the road in Penglai Palace was wide enough. Otherwise, the buildings on the side would have been affected by their battle and turned into ruins. Elemental energy constantly poured out from Bailey Hongzhuang and the other three. Now, they could be said to be conserving every bit of elemental energy. Only by preserving a little bit of elemental energy could they hold on for a while longer. Bailey Hongzhuang had already prepared the elixir supply. In the face of such a battle of attrition, elemental energy consumption was the fastest, so replenishing elemental energy was the most important. As soon as they attacked, Bailey Hongzhuang and the other three tried their best to finish off the other party. Otherwise, they would have to spend more energy and elemental energy. Fortunately, the cultivation of the vast majority of cultivators was only at Purple Realm Level 5 and Purple Realm Level 6. Everyone was also a cultivator who had not been in Penglai Palace for a long time. In addition, it was not so easy to break through at this level. Even with the cultivation resources of Penglai Palace, the spirit stones in everyone's hands were still not enough for cultivation. Therefore, this speed was relatively stagnant. Under such circumstances, Bailey Hongzhuang and the other three's efficiency was not bad. The cultivators in front of them fell one by one in front of them, completely disappearing from this world. However, compared to their speed of elimination, Xiao He and Xiao Bai were the fastest. Their sneak attacks often caught the cultivators off guard. Moreover, they directly attacked the opponent's weakest point as soon as they attacked, not giving the opponent the slightest chance to fight back. Many cultivators directly fell into their path like this. Even until death, they did not understand how they died. The other cultivators gradually realized that some cultivators had lost their lives after letting out a scream. They did not notice what had happened at all. No, something else is ambushing us. One of the cultivators had a grave expression on his face, revealing some panic and fear. Apart from Bailey Hongzhuang and the other three, there was clearly no one else present. However, many of them had clearly been ambushed. Hearing this cultivator's words, the other cultivators' expressions changed as they nodded. That's right. There's indeed something invisible attacking us. Everyone be careful. What kind of sorcery did they use? For a moment, the way everyone looked at Bailey Hongzhuang and the other three changed completely. If they could see it, they could still defend against it. However, this feeling of being invisible and untouchable made everyone panic and their hair stand on end. Seeing that everyone had mistaken Xiao He and Xiao Bai's sneak attacks as sorcery, Bailey Hongzhuang and the other three found it funny. These guys were really too stupid to think of such a reason. Chapter 3378. It had to be said that Xiao He and Xiao Bai's ability to change their figures at will was a great weapon for a sneak attack. Especially in this chaotic battle, everyone was focused on fighting, and the surrounding environment was even more noisy. No one would notice that two things the size of stones could actually threaten their lives. From another perspective, if it was Bailey Hongzhuang and the other three who encountered such a sneak attack, they would probably feel that it was very scary. Hearing Shangguan Yingying's words, everyone was even more uncertain. They clearly knew that Shangguan Yingying's words were mocking them, but the situation in front of them really made them think this way. After this incident, everyone came back to their senses and regained some rationality and calmness. With this look, everyone realized that unknowingly, there were already so many corpses beside Bailey Hongzhuang and the other three. It really made them completely stunned. The other party was only 4 new cultivators. With so many of them besieging them, not only did they not gain any benefits, but they also made so many people pay with their lives. In comparison, Bailey Hongzhuang and the other three's strength was really terrifying. For a moment, many cultivators' expressions changed. Previously, they only thought that Bailey Hongzhuang and the other three had used some special method to hook up with Master Long, causing Master Long to be obsessed and be willing to give them 3 demon pet eggs. They had never thought that there would be any other reason, but after such a battle, they suddenly realized that Bailey Hongzhuang and the other three's strength was indeed extraordinary. Just this potential alone was much stronger than most of them present. At least, if it were them, they would not be able to hold on for so long in such a group fight, nor would they be able to have such a terrifying battle record. At this moment, everyone finally understood that perhaps Master Long wasn't blinded by greed and decided to give the 3 demon beast eggs to them. Instead, he truly took a fancy to their cultivation talent and did so. This news had been spread earlier, but no one believed that Bailey Hongzhuang and the other 3 could catch Master Long's eye, so it was naturally ignored by everyone. Now that they had personally witnessed the fighting power of Bailey Hongzhuang and the other 3, they felt that this news might be true. If it was an ordinary 5th-level Purple Realm cultivator, it would be impossible to burst out such a strong fighting power. Moreover, after fighting for such a long time, if it was an ordinary cultivator, their physical strength would have been exhausted long ago. However, Bailey Hongzhuang was a human, and it seemed that it was not a big deal. With this comparison, they could see the difference between Bailey Hongzhuang and the other 3's ordinary cultivators. Thinking of this, everyone could not help but feel regret. If Bailey Hongzhuang and the other 3 were really such geniuses, then their future development would be limitless. Once they became Inner Palace disciples, they would truly have a meteoric rise. Since they had done such a thing, Bailey Hongzhuang and the others would definitely not let them off. Everyone's expressions changed again and again as various considerations flashed through their minds. In the end, their gazes became firm and ruthless. We must kill them. Otherwise, our days will not be good. No one knew who shouted first, but the rest of the cultivators all agreed one after another. Chapter 33:79. On this point, everyone had already reached a consensus. If they couldn't deal with Bailey Hongzhuang and the others today, then they would face a lot of trouble in the future. Since Master Long was willing to give them 3 demon pet eggs, this proved how much Master Long valued them. Once they complained to Master Long, then they would have to bear the consequences. Immediately, everyone's attacks towards Bailey Hongzhuang and the other 3 became more and more ruthless. This was not only related to the problem of seizing the demon beast eggs, but also related to their future safety and development. Looking at everyone's storm-like attacks, Bailey Hongzhuang and the other 3 were also barely able to resist. The pressure was getting bigger and bigger. Previously, when everyone was focused on dealing with them, they were also thinking about how to fish in troubled waters to save more energy and seize the demon pet eggs. But now, they were completely on the same side, so they were already sparing no effort to deal with Bailey Hongzhuang and the other 3. Under such circumstances, Bailey Hongzhuang and the other 3 could be said to be under a lot of pressure. Their individual fighting strength was indeed not bad, but facing so many cultivators, the consumption of their bodies was not small, and their attention was even more focused. If they were not careful, they would be ambushed by the other party. Once they were injured, then the situation would only get worse and worse. In the next moment, Bailey Hongzhuang and Deep Beichun unleashed their blood aura field at almost the same time. The amount of elemental energy consumed by unleashing the blood aura field was not small. Previously, in order to save more elemental energy, the 2 of them had not unleashed the blood aura field. At this moment, the pressure was getting bigger and bigger, and they could no longer hold on, so they could only unleash the blood aura field. As Bailey Hongzhuang and Deep Beichun unleashed their blood aura field, their auras also instantly rose. After Deep Beichun and Bailey Hongzhuang's auras rose, the original pressure immediately weakened by a lot. Shangguan Ying and Wen Xiren also quietly heaved a sigh of relief and had a chance to breathe. Everyone's expression changed when they saw the blood aura released by Bailey Hongzhuang and Deep Beichun. They had long known that 2 of the people in Bailey Hongzhuang's team were the inheritors of the blood aura field, but they had never been able to determine who they were. Now they finally knew. Not only that, after witnessing the sudden increase in strength of Bailey Hongzhuang, they finally understood how powerful the inheritance of the blood aura was. Previously, they had only heard rumors, so they didn't feel anything. However, now that they had seen it with their own eyes, they finally understood the effect of the blood aura field on one's strength. Immediately, they became extremely jealous. It was no wonder that the inheritance of the blood aura field was so difficult to obtain. Who would have thought that its effects would be so shocking? If they could obtain this inheritance, their strength would increase by leaps and bounds. It would not be a problem for them to fight above their level. As soon as the blood aura field was unleashed, Bailey Hongzhuang and Deep Beichun's attacks once again increased by a notch. Even though everyone's attacks were extremely fierce, the 2's counterattacks were not inferior in the slightest. They were all extremely powerful. In comparison, Xiren and Shangguan Ying were under more pressure. However, Xiao He and Xiao Bai were also helping them share the pressure. Both sides erupted with all their strength, and the fluctuations of the battle were extremely shocking. Under such a tag-team battle, Bailey Hongzhuang's team was inevitably injured. Chapter 3380. Flowers of blood blossomed on the bodies of Bailey Hongzhuang and the other 3. Their physical strength was gradually weakening, and a sense of exhaustion was slowly creeping up on them. Even though they had the ability to fight above their level, their opponents were not ordinary people. Furthermore, Almost all of them were full of energy. This made them feel like they were unable to continue. Taking turns to fight was a battle of attrition. The longer it took, the more difficult it would be to persevere. After Bailey Hongzhuang and Deep Beichun had unleashed the blood aura, the pressure on them had been greatly reduced. However, the rate at which their primary energy was being depleted was extremely terrifying. Even though they had continuously used pills to replenish their primary energy, the rate at which their primary energy was being replenished could not keep up with the rate at which their primary energy was being depleted. Bang! Shangguan Yingying was directly knocked to the ground by her opponent. Her beautiful face was pale, and her speed of standing up was much slower as she gradually lost her strength. Everyone's eyes lit up when they saw that Shangguan Yingying had created an opening. Immediately, they launched an even fiercer attack towards Shangguan Yingying. Yingying, seeing that Shangguan Yingying was in danger, Xiren's eyes flashed with anxiety. He immediately stood in front of Shangguan Yingying to block the attacks for her. Ding ding ding. The sound of swords clashing rang out continuously. Xiren's eyes had long turned red. These people in front of him actually wanted to take his Yingying's life. Taking advantage of this opportunity, Shangguan Yingying quickly stood up. However, Xiren had taken on too many attacks alone. He had been stabbed in the waist. Seeing that Xiren and Shangguan Yingying were in danger, Bailey Hongzhuang's heart skipped a beat. She quickly released Baishir. Roar! Baishir let out a deafening roar as soon as he appeared. It immediately shocked the surrounding cultivators. Seeing the sudden appearance of this ferocious beast, the crowd could not help but be stunned. However, they were not too surprised. From the information that they had gathered earlier, they already knew that Bailey Hongzhuang and the other three had contracted beasts. Moreover, these contracted beasts were not weak. When Baishir saw this scene, the light in his eyes sharpened. Bailey Hongzhuang said directly, "Go and help Yingying and the others." Although her and Di Beichen's situation was not optimistic, they could at least hold on for a while. Xiren and Shangguan Yingying were in danger. If the White Lion did not help, their lives could be in danger at any time. With the addition of the White Lion, the pressure on Xiren and Shangguan Yingying was greatly alleviated. However, they felt an unbearable pain all over their bodies. Needless to say, their wounds hurt. Even their muscles felt an indescribable soreness. It was as if every time they swung their swords, they needed to exert a great deal of strength. Their hands gradually became numb, and their attacks gradually slowed down. The situation of Bailey Hongzhuang and the others uncontrollably became worse. In such a battle of attrition, even a body made of iron would not be able to withstand it. The smell of blood continued to spread throughout the area. Flowers of blood bloomed on the ground, enchanting and poignant. When the cultivators in the outer palace saw that Bailey Hongzhuang and the other three had managed to withstand their attacks for so long, the fear in their hearts grew. This level of battle power was simply too terrifying. If it were any of them, they would not have the confidence to do so. However, the four newcomers had managed to hold on for so long. After exclaiming in surprise, the crowd felt a lingering fear. Chapter 3381. They can't take it anymore. Take this opportunity to kill them. That's right. As long as we kill them, this demon pet egg will be ours. There were more and more wounds on Bailey Hongzhuang's body. Her white robe was now dyed red with blood. Her delicate and perfect face was pale, without the slightest trace of blood, but her bright phoenix eyes were always shining with a firm and persistent light. Every face in front of her was clearly imprinted in her heart. As long as they didn't die today, she would return all of this pain to these guys in front of her. Di Beichen's handsome face was already stained with a few drops of blood. The blood on his clothes was already indistinguishable from his own or someone else's. All of it gathered together, and his killing intent was also getting stronger and stronger. Shangguan Yingying and Wen Xiren's situation was even worse than Bailey Hongzhuang's. Ever since they were injured, their movements had become sluggish, causing the frequency of their injuries to increase. Xiren's face had already become abnormally pale due to excessive blood loss. His hand that was holding the sword trembled slightly. Every bit of strength in his body had been squeezed out. At this moment, he was completely relying on his willpower to continue fighting. Even he himself didn't know when he would completely lose his strength and faint. However, he knew that he couldn't fall like this. Once he fell like this, he would never wake up again. The light in Shangguan Yingying's eyes became more and more ruthless, revealing an unspeakable resentment. These damn guys in front of them had forced them to such a state just for some benefits. They were simply abominable. Even though they had already expected such a tragic scene, when all of this really happened, the resentment and anger in their hearts continued to surge. They couldn't wait to kill all of these guys in front of them. Fortunately, the world was peaceful. The manager of the Outer Palace really came back. We've already persevered for so long, but we haven't seen any trace of them. Shangguan Yingying's face was pale, and her voice was filled with despair. They clearly knew that this was an unwinnable battle. Their only hope was to wait for the manager to appear. However, it had already been so long, and the other party still hadn't made any movements. Perhaps the other party didn't plan to come out at all. Xiren's face was also a little ugly. According to his judgment, the matter had already escalated to such a point that the other party should have appeared. Logically speaking, with such a huge commotion, they shouldn't be able to sit by and do nothing. He couldn't figure it out. There were already many corpses on the ground. He felt that no force would sit by and do nothing in such a situation. However, the other party hadn't shown up for so long, which made him unable to figure it out. Bailey Hongzhuang and Bewitching also had a trace of doubt in their eyes. They felt that their previous judgment could not be wrong, but after so long, the manager still had not appeared, and they could not help but feel a little nervous. Could it be that Penglai Palace's management of the cultivators was so lax that no matter what kind of commotion was caused in the outer hall, it could not attract them to come out? If that was the case, then there was a problem with their judgment. Chapter 3382. Bewitching's eyes darkened slightly. Logically speaking, this shouldn't happen. Could it be that we haven't caused enough of a ruckus? Hearing Bewitching's words, Bailey Hongzhuang and the others could not help but look at each other. If this situation was not considered big enough, then what would be considered big enough? If this continues, we won't be able to hold on any longer. Xiren's expression was extremely ugly. He had already used all of his skills, and the strength in his body had been gradually depleted. If this continued, he could fall into a coma at any time. These vile people who only cared about benefits had long regarded them as prey. Once they fell, the only outcome would be death. That's right. If this continues, all of us will die here. Shangguan Yingying glanced around. Although they had killed a lot of cultivators compared to this huge number, what they had done was still not enough. This was because the number of disciples in the outer palace of Penglai Palace was too great. Bailey Hongzhuang's eyes also showed a touch of worry. She did not understand where their judgment had gone wrong, but it was obvious that they had to think of other ways at the moment. If the manager was unwilling to appear, they could not just throw their lives away here. When the other cultivators saw that Bailey Hongzhuang and the other three, as well as Baisher, were gradually losing their strength, their eyes lit up with excitement. They can't hold on any longer. Take this opportunity to kill them directly. Everyone, work harder. These four guys are not far from death. Bailey Hongzhuang and the other three looked at the covetous eyes of the people around them. They were like evil spirits, wishing that they could die as soon as possible so that they could divide their wealth. I will never let these guys take advantage of me. Shangguan Yingying's eyes flashed with a ruthless light. A crazy idea gradually emerged in her mind. She was already unable to continue fighting. At this moment, every attack she made was relying on her own will to fight. She did not know how long she could last. The only thing she knew was that even if she died, she would not let these people in front of her gain the slightest advantage. Even if I'm really going to die, I'd rather self-destruct than leave these guys with any benefits. The light in Shangwan Yingying's eyes became crazier and more ruthless. After fighting to this point, she no longer expected to survive. She only had one thought now. Even if she was going to die, she had to drag a few people down with her. These guys wanted to kill her so that they could benefit from it, but she was going to drag them down to hell with her. The gazes of Bailey Hongzhuang and the others changed when they heard Shangwan Yingying's words. They never expected Shangwan Yingying to be so unyielding as to even think of such a plan. Yingying, don't be rash. Just because it's not the last moment doesn't mean that we don't have a chance to turn things around. Bailey Hongzhuang quickly spoke up. Even though the situation before them was very difficult to resolve, this did not mean that they had to die. She had to first dispel Shangwan Yingying's thoughts. Chapter 3383. You're already on the path to death, and you still want to live on. What a fool's dream. In my opinion, you might as well stop struggling and just stop. We'll give you a quick death and save you the pain. That's right. Since you can't hold on any longer, why continue to make things difficult for yourself? Death is also a form of relief for you. The Outer Palace disciples who were besieging them smiled. Bailey Hongzhuang and the other three were now cornered beasts. They believed that in less than a quarter of an hour, the four of them would die by their hands. There was indeed a manager in the Outer Palace. However, the conflicts in the Outer Palace were not small. Ordinary movements would not alarm them at all. Although today's movements were much larger than usual, they were already prepared. Therefore, they immediately used their primary energy to prop up a barrier and suppress the movements. This way, the manager would not be in a hurry to come out and take a look. They also had enough time to deal with Bailey Hongzhuang and the others. However, Bailey Hongzhuang and the others did not notice this detail. Therefore, they were still waiting for help. Listening to the other party's merciless ridicule, Bailey Hongzhuang's heart surged with madness. She still wanted to stay in Penglai Palace, so she was not willing to go to the extreme. If there's really no room for negotiation, then she could only give it her all. Thinking of this, Bailey Hongzhuang could not help but look at Bewitching. Bewitching noticed Bailey Hongzhuang's gaze and immediately understood what she meant. He immediately nodded. Now this was the only way. Since the other party wanted them dead, the only thing they could do was to let the other party die first. Seeing this, Bailey Hongzhuang's gaze deepened. Since the manager of Penglai Island was unwilling to come out, she would solve this problem herself. If you don't offend me, I won't offend you. Since you're forcing me step by step, don't blame me for being ruthless. Bailey Hongzhuang's sharp eyes exuded a shocking murderous aura. Her gaze swept across everyone in front of her. She rarely used such means, but now that she was forced to this point, she had no other choice. These people in front of her all deserved to die. When Ziren and Shangwan Yingying could not help but look at Bailey Hongzhuang in surprise. They did not know that Bailey Hongzhuang still had a backup plan. Bewitching's expression was very indifferent. He had already discussed this with Bailey Hongzhuang. This was their trump card, and if they could avoid it, it would be best not to use it. Because once they used it, they could not be sure what kind of attitude Penglai Palace would have towards them. Perhaps they would no longer be a member of Penglai Palace from then on. Perhaps there would be an even worse outcome. As of now, the number of Outer Hall disciples who had died in their hands was not small. If the number increased, the manager of Penglai Palace would not be able to bear it. However, now that they had been forced to a dead end, there was no other way. After hearing Bailey Hongzhuang's words, the other cultivators couldn't help but be stunned for a moment. There was a burst of surprise in their hearts. They didn't believe that Bailey Hongzhuang's group had a way to escape at this time. You're tuning in to the Romance Rendezvous YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.